and all for attending this session. This is just one of 8 sessions today, and we're excited to have today's conversation with Dr. Bonnie Harrison from CoGro. My name is Eliana, and I'm here with my colleague Lena. We're part of the CIFPAC support team, and this is day one of the 2025 Supplier Development Summit. So if you've gone to other events, welcome again. If this is your first session for the day, welcome now. The summit is hosted by the Good Food Purchasing Initiative team. Together with our partners, we're working to make Chicagoland's food system more equitable and transparent, centered on food that's local, sustainable, fair, humane, and nutritious. That means shifting how institutions buy food through the Good Food Purchasing Program, while also uplifting suppliers with resources and gatherings like this summit. Thank you for joining Rooted in Community, CoGro's approach to capacity building and collective action, featuring Dr. Bonnie Harrison.
Hi. Oh, are you going to do the bio first?
Yeah, I can do the bio. I'll do the bio. So, excited to introduce Dr. Bonnie. And Dr. Bonnie is a 7th-generation farmer, educator, and food justice advocate whose family has farmed for over a century across Kentucky and Illinois. She holds a PhD in the social anthropology of the African diaspora, focusing on interethnic connections, food access, and community histories. Her family's 35-acre Harrison family farm in Chicago Heights, established in 1942, and then nearly 200-year-old CoGro farm across the street, short for CoGro's, anchor her commitment to community-based agriculture and food sovereignty. A faculty member at the Kennedy King College, Dr. Harrison helped launch the community initiative that brought Whole Foods, Starbucks, and Chipotle to Englewood. She now leads efforts in Fort Heights and Chicago Heights through Roots, Eggs, and Greens, and the Soul Food Farmers Market, which enters its 4th season in 2026. Dr. Harrison work cultivates connection between land, culture, and community health. Welcome, Dr. Harrison. Thank you for being here with us today. And we'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that introduction, Ileana. And let me make it clear that my farm is not 200 years old. The farm itself is 200 years old. We bought it in 2015. So I got to fix my bio a little because it's a little not clear. But it is across the street from the family farm that's been there since 1942. So it's so great to see you all today. So let me share with you a little bit about some of our, I'm trying to figure out how to, oh, my screen, okay. How we work at CoGro and what our approach has been from the beginning. So Chicago Heights is a little bit isolated now. We're wedged between a growing industrial sector and Fort Heights and Chicago Heights, which are sort of abandoned, formerly African-American towns, or formerly primarily African-American towns that have sort of been pushed out and pushed around by the industry. So even though most of my families work for Ford, I will only drive a Ford because that's kind of, if you don't in my family, you're in trouble. So, you know, there's a back and forth between farms and industry in that community. If you've ever been to the Ford stamping plant or the Ford plant where they make Explorers, you may not realize that there are farms in the area, but there is a whole row of farms on Cottage Grove. And so the name for my organization is CoGro, which honors that there are 4 farmers, BIPOC farmers on that road in the stretch between Route 30 and Steger Road. So it's a historically German and Dutch neighborhood. And so all the farms that we farm on have been there for a while, and we have found ourselves as a part.
We've lost Dr. Bonnie. Appreciate your patience. We'll try to get her back.
Mi vida loca. Okay, so again, I'm here to talk about rooted in community, CoGro's approach to capacity building and collective action. And so one thing I want to do before we start talking very specifically about what we've done at CoGro and how we've survived as CoGro, I want to first thank Aye and Orisha Oko, the Orisha of Earth and Agriculture, respectively, and to the original peoples of this land whose stewardship we honor. To the farmers who feed us, the campesinos of Guatemala, the farm workers in California and Illinois, the campesinos of Guatemala that I've seen being sprayed with pesticides in my visits. So we pray for them. To the George Washington Carver, Cesar Chavez, and Fannie Lou Harmer who planted the seeds of justice, and may we continue their work with humility, courage, and joy. Okay, this is also one of our ancestors recently passed, is one of our guild members, is Yvonne Pugh, and she, as the image says, is absolutely unforgettable. You will see her in pictures as we go forward. I want to quote Leah Penniman, who is one of my sisters in this work, but also in IFA. This is what it means to be community. This is what solidarity means. This is what sharing means. You are a part of this too. You get to receive, give, and receive. So, so the challenge that we faced was a disconnection from resources. There's limited access to land, capital, and infrastructure in the two communities that I've worked in. So I've worked in Inglewood as a professor at city colleges. I have been lucky to have worked with several social justice workers. Stokely Carmichael was a teacher of mine when I was a teenager because he would come to Chicago to a bookstore and he would give lectures. And I've worked with Prexy Nesbitt and other who was working in Mozambique, and I've worked with Steve Coakley, who and other. I can name other names. I'm not dropping names. I'm just saying that the people who inspired me: Leah Penniman, Bell Hooks. I've even been able to work with Angela Davis briefly. But just the idea that we don't do anything without our community and building connections. So I hope to build those connections with you all. And I brought that work, what I learned, to my job at city colleges. So I started the Social Justice Committee, and we started dreaming about what Inglewood could look like. I personally have health issues that require me to eat a certain way. And one of the things that we talked about was the food access that we had. So for years, I think about 7 years, we did work thinking about, asking about, doing workshops, inviting people to talk to us, having festivals around eating and eating healthily. And so we did all that work at in Inglewood, and that culminated in a conversation that we had with Teamwork Inglewood, where they said, well, if you could change Inglewood or bring anything to Inglewood, what would you do? And the students and I looked at each other because we had just played this game where we reimagine Inglewood, and we had a list. And so we gave them our list: Whole Foods, Jamba Juice, Chipotle, and Starbucks. And so we got that to happen, and that was wonderful. And currently, and that community is really strong, and there's a lot of people working in that community. They forget about those little students at Kennedy King who had a dream that kind of came true, but those students learned so much. And I hope to bring some of that same energy to the Guild and to Chicago Heights and Ford Heights, where I work now. In those communities, what we know them as, what Leah Penniman calls food apartheid. the closest grocery store is 8 miles away, and people get their food from Family Dollar and the liquor store and the gas station. So you can see that working with the community is very important to me, but it's also difficult to work in a community where there are not a lot of resources. Like I said, my family farm, where everybody left, there's only 2 elders living on that farm. My own farm is 200 years old. It's was first inhabited in the 1840s, and it's falling apart. And so asking for help, looking for help, asking for support, helping other people has really been the way that we've been able to move forward. So generally, especially in Chicago Heights, you can be very isolated from other growers and support networks. And there's a lot of barriers to navigating institutional systems. And I want to stop and say that I've been to meetings with where I've heard people complain about how hard it is to find out what resources are available to them. And other gardeners and farmers and of color, just kind of feeling outside of the system. And that's a real feeling. And it's not because because the resources aren't there. It's just sometimes the channels that we're used to or that we know are just not leading us to those resources, right? So sometimes we have to step outside of our safety zone, as I've shared with people, sometimes you just have to jump in and see what happens, which is what we did at CoGro. We just sort of jumped in, started applying to things. Some things were completely out of our range, but also by having a guild, other people were doing the same thing. And that allowed us to eventually find our way to GFPI, find our way to NCRS, find our way to Cook County, find our way to University of Illinois Extension. And it was a process. It's taken several years. So I want to talk specifically about the Guild. It's the Lifeboats Guild. It's a collective of growers who share skills, resources, and meet together. We've been meeting together since 2019 to work together. So we're inspired by African diasporic traditions such as the Haitian Kombit, which is a mutual aid and communal labor concept. We call our days when we get together, I'm sure you all have heard of a crop mob. And so that's what we do. We crop mob. One of the interesting things about our guild is that we are, I don't want to use the A word, but we are loosely organized. We are not highly structured because we decided that rather than elect officers and have some sort of hierarchical structure, that had been working since 2019, which was just to meet together and hang out and come to each other's places and eat together and do what we could, was a much more communal way of doing things. So we do have some ideas because we were started off as we met each other along with 50 other people at a permaculture course. So we do try to ground ourselves in these permaculture values. And they are earth care, people care, and fair share. I'm sure you all have heard of those, inspired by Bill Mollison in the Big Book on permaculture. So we try to work with each other to develop skills like soil. There's a running joke in our group about calling things dirt. So you can't, it's kind of like an initiation. You have to use the word soil because dirt is something else, and we honor the soil. So we participate in each other's businesses. For example, last year, my second year of the Soul Food Farmers Market, the Guild decided that would be their project for the year, would be to come and support my market. And one of my partners at Greenlots, he bottles peppers. And so we obviously are selling his peppers even when he's not able to come to the business. My uncle has all of the bees. He's got 40, 30, 35 hives. Some of those hives are my hives. I have 5 hives there. So we work with him to bring in, to support his honey business because he's disabled and he can't get around, but he can watch his bees, take care of his bees, but he cannot, um, process the honey. That's something that we do for him. So we build these networks with local businesses. For example, we've worked with Family Dollar. We've worked with a local restaurant called Java Sip Soul Food. And we're starting to learn to work a little bit more deeply with government. So we've worked with the food pantries in Bloom Township and in Fort Heights. And then this year we made the leap of going and talking with and participating more closely with, the Fort Township government, because we had to get a permit for our market. We moved the market to a place where we needed a permit. So slowly but surely, step by step, we move forward and, learning about what we can do, what our capacity is by supporting each other. So if I have a grant, I will actually call 3 or 4 of the other members saying, hey, you qualify for this grant. Make sure you get your application in. So we've done the pollinator partnership together. And we've done a bunch of other smaller grants together like that, which have been very useful. So the idea is, of us being disconnected. I mean, my husband and I started at Brickyard Garden. I came from Katrina back to Chicago in 2006 and was disconnected from Chicago, was disconnected from farming, was disconnected from gardening, was just generally disconnected because it was a traumatic experience. So we started started gardening at Brickyard Garden, and then we got the fire. My family was getting older. They were going to the gas station to socialize. And so we said, hey, let's go let's go get closer to them. Let's get a farm where we can closer to them so that we can keep an eye on our family. It's turned out to be very important to keep everybody kind of supported, because some of my family members, farmers, didn't have kids. And so we get to be their kids and take care of them. But for the guild, so then now we have a big farm where we can host people. It's 6 acres, so it's not huge. But the farmers first met at the permaculture training at Black Oaks in 2018. We decided to stay in touch. Like I said before, we have an open system of governance, and so we meet at each other's sites. So the sites include gardens, of course, back porch gardens, farms, and then future sites. So one of our members has been given some land in Inglewood. And so she's imagining it being a site of community beauty. And this is not something she's familiar with. She's never owned land before. And so we've helped her to, we come together, when we can, maybe once or twice in the spring, and 3 or 4 times in the winter. And then we do a book reading in the fall, winter. We start a book. We'll read the big book, the permaculture book, or we'll choose another book like Farming While Black or something like that, to keep ourselves, moving and learning and growing and connected. But she bought this site and she wants to plant fruit trees and have it be one of those sites where anybody in the community can come and rest. The idea of rest is resistance. A place of beauty in the middle of the urban jungle, right, is kind of her idea. She also wants to build some kind of strange, I don't know if she's on the site, but if she's on the call, but some kind of strange earth building. So, so we're there with her to kind of think through, well, what this earth building look like? What are the codes that we need to pay attention to? Each of us has a strength. I'm big one for making sure that we've got insurance and code, and we're up to standard with the government, with whatever requirements we have. And so that's a good example. I don't have any pictures of that. I thought about that. I don't have any pictures, but I think it's a good example. Another example is we helped Yvonne Pugh on her back porch herb and aloe vera garden. And so, we just lost her. She passed away in this summer. And I'll show you a picture of her with her hats and her fabulousness. But again, the guild is anarchic in that sense that we meet at just mutually agreed times with an open shared structure. There's no president. There's no secretary. There's people who will volunteer to do those jobs when they're needed. We just make sure we try to keep in touch with the rest of the permaculture, with the rest of the people that we learned with. Sometimes they show up. We do have an online site where we share calendars. We let people know when we have a work day. For example, last week I had a boom crop of sweet potatoes, purple and orange sweet potatoes on the 6 acres that I farm on, and we need help because we got so many sweet potatoes. We didn't realize we were going to have these thousands of sweet potatoes, so we called the guild in to help us pull these sweet potatoes. They're still working at it this week. Thank goodness we have a nice, decent. We're going to freeze. What is it? Monday night. So we got the rest of this week to make sure that we get those sweet potatoes out. So we also, like I said before, we pool resources if somebody needs. I think we didn't have, or our lawnmower broke, and so Pancho lent us some cutting tools, and that's not uncommon. We had a tax problem, and one of the members lent us money, $2,000, to meet this deadline. We gave them the money back, I think, in the same month, but it was that they were there for us. And so we had this idea, and of course we party together. We do a lot of this, unfortunately. This sometimes, we have a work day, or we'll have a crop mob, and sometimes eating and socializing. I remember the last time, I think, Catherine, you were at one of my events where the food wasn't even cooked because everybody was socializing, and I was so mad about it. But those are the kinds of things that happen. And when you have a group, and we have to have space for each other. So again, here's a guild meeting at the Green Lots Project. This is Pancho in the top, the guy with the glasses and the hat with the CSU. He teaches at Chicago State. That's me, of course. And then Miss Yvonne is in the white hat, the fabulous white hat with the blue. And that's Miss Jessie. And the sister here, she's Jamaican, and I cannot think of her name. I'm so sorry. She's not a member of the guild, but she's a friend of the guild. So anyway, so this is me doing the public storytelling, because we haven't told a lot of people about what we've been doing. We just kind of been busy at it. So this is a school group that came to our farm. They planted watermelon and sunflowers, and they would come once a month and look at what they had planted and where it had gone, and they'd learn one aspect of farming. I think this year we were learning about weeds, obviously. And if you can see in the background is my barn. We call the East Barn. It's obviously, that barn was built in, we think, in the 20s. And so you can see that we have some infrastructure issues, but everything's stable, and we still have people, and we have insurance, and we have everybody come out to collaborate. And sometimes the guild members will come to help us teach. So what we're trying to do is build community, with I live in the city because I work for the city of Chicago. I don't actually live on my farm. My husband lives on the farm. So we have a lot of people in between Hyde Park, where I grew up, frankly, and in Chicago Heights, where I was born. And we try to, keep those connections going. But we also want to connect with the schools in the area. There's a lot more. We have a whole map of all the people that we would like to connect with. The guild is our primary, like it's our home community, but that allows us also to connect with people in the on the west side, where one of our farms is. Kaumba Tre'am is there. Green Lots is on the southwest side. Mama Yvonne, she lives on the north side. Mama Jessie lives in Lincoln Park. And so we're really connecting communities and even ways of life through this one guild, where we are all over the city and even in the south suburbs. So I've kind of talked about this a little bit, what we've done, how we share things. We share tents for farmers markets. We do different things like that. So the reflection exercise here, you have homework, is who is in your guild, or who could it be? And I'd love it if you wanted to partner up and share one resource you can offer and one you need. if we have time for that activity. I forgot to mention that, Ileana, I had an active component. So I'm a professor, and I have the power to do this in my everyday, and so this is just my normal way I do things, interactive. How do we feel? Can we do this?
Let's
What do you
see.
think, Lena? What'd you say?
Yeah, we have 14 people, so I mean,
Let's
we
go.
can. I think like I wonder if the opportunity would be people coming off mute.
Yeah, let's do it that way. I like that.
And you know, just kind of and or putting it in the chat if you're mic shy. That's also an option, and we'll read them out loud. So we'll give a moment for people to do that. And
so the question is, who is in your guild, and who would you like it to be, or who could it be?
And on that note, while people are thinking about their guild, please make sure to identify yourself. We're all trying to build community here. So, you know, whether you're listening as an individual or representing an organization, please introduce yourself in the chat.
And thank you, Adam, for stepping in. Okay, we got one. Or is that me? Oh, we don't have one. Okay. Hi, Ashley. Hey, Sophia. Hey, Catherine.
And so I know that some folks joined a little bit later. So when just like, I know this is quiz moment from our wonderful speaker here, but when you say guild, it's like that, like the people that you work to build community together. Is that essentially like who is in that community building?
So the idea of guild itself, you know, I'm really emphasizing the looseness of community building, because when we start talking about structure, we start moving people away from the community part, right? But guild at its root means people who've trained together, right? So, you know, I really could claim Catherine as being a part of my U of I guild, because I've trained in the master farmer training, urban farmer training. So all of those people that I trained with would be in, you know, my U of I master urban trainer guild, right? It's the idea, that's the root idea. But in general, as we're working together to build an equitable food system, we're all in the same guild, right? We're all trying to figure out how does this work, and working together to share resources to figure out how we're moving forward. So that's one way to think about it. Is it, you know, specifically, did you take a class together, a series of classes together, and now you have the same skill sets and you can support each other? Or is it an idea of our future, our collective future? Catherine.
Yeah, I was just going to chip in, Bonnie, because I wasn't thinking that you had just been my student, but you've become my guild because we go way back in Hyde Park and we're at the same high school at the same time. And we've discovered all these common connections, which has helped me feel better about being back in Chicago and grounded here. So,
big hug. You're the best, Catherine.
I'll say for myself, like my experience in food systems work has been really and truly just like being part of CIFPAC. I remember when I started exploring this work, my first conversation was with Roger, who is the executive director for the organization, and just thinking about how much of him and others in this work have been kind of such a guiding light, right? And I feel that we are in some ways musical chairs in this work because we really support, respect, and are passionate of seeing the changes that each of our organizations are doing. And I'll let, I know there's a hand raised, so please go ahead.
Kenyana?
Yeah, hey guys.
Hey.
I am, my guild is honestly, a lot of the community members that come to our community garden help to work. We have a few organizations that we work hand in hand with. And individually, I just like to like I like the community members more so than the organizations because it makes me feel like we're building to something more meaningful. Not to say the organizations don't, because I work with a few people on here. Adonis, he's part of my guild because we worked together in the past. He's come to our organization and to speak with our young people about urban agriculture. So like anybody who wants to put in the work, I think it's part of my guild. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, I'll be part of your guild. Great.
Love that question. When I think about that, I think about like people who have shared values and shared mission and vision. And so like I've been in our room with a lot of elders and a lot of young people, and so like those people are on that same wavelength who putting in the work. Those are my people who are my guild. So Kenyatta, cool, Roger, like it's so many people who are out here, staff, like so many people who like are in all these different capacities and different roles, like doing the job from like the grant writers, getting the bread so that us farmers can like get the seeds, and then to our family members who are like then spreading the word to other community members about the impact of said gardens. Like those are our guilds. Like, and that's, we have to think about it and not just like a labor way, but like then like our whole ecosystem. Like who's our what's our understory? What's our shrubs? Who are these then? Who are pollinators within our spaces, and then like leveraging those not to a certain extent to like get the word out, get the and have a greater impact in this world.
Absolutely. Yes. And I remember actually one of our members is in Miami, and he commutes between Miami and Chicago. And he had an idea, Adonis, that this was during COVID, because we would go to the farm a lot during COVID because we could be outside. And we had this whole idea about a food network, almost like an underground railroad where we could, because my family has a farm in Kentucky, we could kind of get down to Kentucky, and then we could kind of make our way to the next spot in Tennessee, and then we could kind of wiggle our way down to, I mean, even today, even though it's not in, crisis, right now we still have this idea like, okay, everybody, when it gets really cold, we're going to go down to Heru's place in St. Petersburg. We're out of here, But that's because we have this connection and this love that we share between each other, like you said, and because we're so well supported here in Illinois. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, and then we got to think about our national organizations that are doing the great work too, like the National Black Farmers Association. Like thinking about that, like I've been down the farmers who have 10, 15 acres in Alabama who are then training up new farmers to be able to get an acre to then be able to grow themselves. And like all these different parts of like Cuba, Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina, is like those interconnected. And then how do we build those true supply chains of like, because you go down to Alabama, their main export is lumber. We up here building raised beds. You go to Menards, that price is crazy for lumber. Why we got nobody who driving that we know in our network is driving, breaking that wood up? Like these
Absolutely. Oh, excellent.
At this young age of 32, like we got the people in position. We just got to put them to work.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And I'm half Alabama myself. Both my grandmothers are from Alabama, so I got people down there too. But so the idea is to keep having these conversations, where we can try to figure out networks, and we don't have to do it in a crisis mode, but as Stokely Carmichael says, organize. He said organize, even if you organize around goldfish, even if you organize around colors of carrots, those are my examples, because you never know we're going to need each other. And the point is, if you're already organized, if you're already talking to each other, if you already have a GFPI that's putting on conferences, you have an NCRS that's meeting with people. The thing is that worries me the most is that lady who came to a meeting with the NCRS and was so lost, like, what do I do for her? I don't have anything to hand her. I can invite her to an event, but then she might not come, and then she's still feeling lost. And there's always the crabs in the barrel idea too, and that having a guild helps us to not feel like, well, I've got this grant, I don't want to share the grant with I don't want to share the fact that there's this grant with other people. No, because when other people get that grant in a guild, then you benefit. Like I hired Haru to be, because he helped me with my farmers market. He has one in Miami. The guild can, some of the people from the guild have ended up helping me run the farmers market, which they're essential. And where I am, it's very difficult to find skilled labor. So I've hired people to help me in the garden. I say, go pick the tomatoes. They pick the whole plant, right? So it's really nice to have people who have a sense of what the community is. And I want to train that person who wants to pick the whole plant because they're, have nature deficit disorder. They don't know. And so then there's always capacity building, like how much can we do? And being connected on these different levels helps us to be able to assess what we can do. We just did that in a workshop this morning. What can you do? What can you sell to distributor, and having that perspective. But also, we can't help everybody, but we can at least have a system that we can share, right? Because I couldn't go beyond 50 people, right, in my guild. It would fall apart. It would break into different groups. But each of those members in my guild, there's about 9 of us. Each of them is connected to other organizations. So that's a great way. Having a small group is fine, because then each of you all can connect out. And that's actually in the permaculture book. It talks about sizes of groups and what a productive group size is. And actually they say 3 to 9, 3 to 10 is productive. Anything over that, you're going to need to split off into another guild. But anyway, questions? No questions? Okay, great. Let's see if I can go to the next slide. All right, so I want to share some action commitments. By the next month, you could attend a local meeting. Remember I said organize. I'm repeating what my mentor told me, which is just, attend a meeting. It doesn't have to be a farming meeting. It could be a neighborhood meeting. It could be, there's the city is trying to mess around with the point. There's a meeting on Monday about that at the Blackstone Library, right? You could meet one neighbor farmer. And for us, that would be, there's a lot of neighbors that I haven't met. You can share a story. It's something that we don't do, that I haven't done. This is the first time I've done that. So thank you for being my wobbly legged out, trying to tell the story of who we are. And then you can offer one resource to your guild, the people that you consider. Like, I should call Catherine up and say, hey, when's the pumpkin smash? Did I miss it? Are you still there, Catherine?
Yeah, sorry, I can't do a million things at once. It's this Saturday, November 8th. There's fewer locations in the city this year, but
Okay.
go to scarce.org to find a pumpkin smash near you.
Yay! It's pumpkin smash, or what is it? Scarce.com?
I'll put it in the chat.
Awesome sauce. Well, there you have it. Overlapping guilds. So I want to close with thanks to Aye Orisha Oko, the land and waters that hold us, to the hands that feed us, and to our ancestors, Carver, Chavez, and Hamer, who tilled, taught, and transformed. Thank you so much. Oh, and Penniman, who's also keeping us moving forward, to my inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.